You're better off dead with a face like that, Rafiq Rahman thought. He squinted at the patient whose skin was a patchwork of bruises and abrasions. An oxygen mask covered his mouth, and tubes rested on his neck brace. Another tube attached to his arm fed him clear fluid from a bag held on a drip rail. Rafiq looked out of the window, recognizing the tall, glassy glory of the Prudential building. Red and white car lights were lit along the road leading to the Euston underpass. Who am I supposed to be visiting? He thought, turning to look at the bed again. The patient's body was inked with tattoos that looked familiar: a serpent, an octopus, barbed wire and peacock feathers. The unfinished tiger on his shoulder spooked him. He thought it had blinked. Papers rustled and he turned. He was startled to see a nurse with his back to him, sitting by a computer terminal. The door opened and another nurse walked into the room, glancing in his direction. "Thanks for covering," the nurse said as the other stood up. "I was just on my way out," Rafiq said, and shrugged at the lack of the response. He walked out of the room before the door closed behind him. In the long cream corridor, he passed oxygen canisters and medical apparatus with fuzzy labels on them. Feeling giddy, he tried to remember how he'd got there. What did I do this time? Why can't I see clearly? He thought as he walked into a shared ward. He froze. A man in tattered clothes swung his broken arm around his head. Another man, his wide eyes fixed on Rafiq, dragged his distended leg across the floor. And a boy in a dressing gown, with a gash across his neck, warbled at him. Rafiq backed away, trying to shake the mist from his mind. A man in platform heels and rouge smudged on his lips tried to give him a broken flower, but it wouldn't leave his hands. More patients surrounded him, ignoring a uniformed woman holding a tray of syringes and gauzes. They hissed and whispered, calling out names and pleading with him. They bustled around him as he dropped to his hands and feet, backing away from them like a crab. "I don't want to see this shit." As he thought it, the crowd disappeared, only to be replaced by a man in shadow walking towards him. What the fuck is he doing here? Rafiq asked himself as his father came to a halt. He looked taller than anyone Rafiq had ever seen, the way a father would look to a child. His eyes, one green, the other brown, shone in the artificial light. He smoothed his receding hair with his palm. His darker eye flickered as he sucked a cigarette, threw back his head and exhaled smoke. He advanced.